Stephanie here with a video from My Favorite Things. In today's video, we are going to be recreating a card that was designed by design team member Torico using products from the new April 2017 release. We're going to be creating a fun spinner card using elements from the new Up in the Air stamp set. This is a really great stamp set that has a ton of different designs in it that you can kind of mix and match and use together to create endless scenes. So what I've done is I've already went ahead and done all of the stamping and coloring off camera just to kind of save a little bit of time since we really want to focus on the creation of the spinner portion of the card. So I have all of my little pieces here, and you can see I have two each of the large balloons, the elephant, and the little banner piece. And that's just because we're going to be layering these back to back, so we want to have one of each on each side. I also have a bunch of other elements cut out. I have some rounded rectangles that I used the Blueprints 31 Dynamics die for. I have a sentiment label cut from the Sentiment Strips Dynamics. I have a couple of circle frames cut from the Single Stitch Line Circle Frames Dynamics. And then I also cut a little cloud border from some masking paper using the Stitch Cloud Edges Dynamics. So what I'm going to do to start off is I'm going to create a hole in the front of my card, and this is where we're going to create the spinner for the hot air balloons. So I'm going to use the Circle Stacks Dynamics, and I've picked one that will work with the frame that I've cut out. The frame that we're using is the second largest in the Single Stitch Line Circle Frame set. So this circle here is just slightly smaller so that it will fit in behind that frame. So the first thing I did was I ran the card base as well as the panel that's going to be positioned on top through my die cutting machine with the circle die. And I didn't adhere that striped piece of paper on there. I don't want it adhered yet, but I did want to make sure that the circles line up perfectly. So I put them together, I ran them both through at the same time with the circle die, and now I have the panel and the card base that are going to line up perfectly. Now to create the spinner portion of the card is super easy to do. You just want to take a piece of string. It's completely up to you. You can use white string. I have silver here. You can use fishing line. That's a really great option as well because it tends to be pretty clear and you don't really see it. So what you want to do is you want to create a sandwich around the string. So I'm taking my first hot air balloon and I'm positioning it on the string so that the string is perfectly center at the top and bottom area of the hot air balloon. And then I'm taking the second hot air balloon and I'm going to position that directly on top. And I'm going to completely sandwich that string right in between those two pieces. So you can see there I have the string coming out the top and the bottom, and you can kind of see it in the middle area as well, but we're going to end up covering that up right now here with the elephants. So I'm just going to adhere one of the elephants on one side, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to adhere the elephant on the other side. And if you see any parts peeking over, so like for example the elephant ear was kind of peeking a little bit on the one side, you just want to make sure that you line up both sets of die cuts so that they completely cover each other. So you can see here with the banner, I'm completely lining this one up with the two ends that are peeking out from both sides of the balloon. And then when I let the little piece here kind of spin around, it looks exactly the same on both sides, so you don't really even notice a difference. So now that we have the spinner created, we need to actually adhere it inside that circle area on the card. So what I like to do is use Be Creative tape or score tape. This is a really strong tape and it's going to really hold that string in place. So I just positioned a small piece at the very top of the circle and at the very bottom of the circle. And I'm just making sure to completely center that hot air balloon. And then I'm pressing that string right into that adhesive so that it adheres really well. And then now I can take the top piece that we're going to layer over top and I can adhere this to the card front, and it's going to completely cover up where I have that adhesive with the string. So first I just need to trim down the string pieces because they are a little bit too long, and then I'm just going to position this directly over that and adhere it down. And because we die cut them at the same time, this is going to line up perfectly with the front of the card base. So the last thing we want to do to the card now, to the front area, is to add the two little frames that we created. So I'm just taking some liquid glue just because the frame is a little bit thin to try and get my tape runner around it. And I'm going to position one of them on the front of the card. And I'm just going to press down and get that kind of adhered and open up the card so I can kind of work a little bit easier. And then when I flip it over, you're going to be able to see that you can see some of that frame. And that's why we have a second one cut out, so that we can layer one on the inside of the card as well. And it just gives it a really finished look so that even if you're looking from the outside or the inside, everything looks really nice and finished and you don't see any of the string detail holding in that hot air balloon spinner portion. So now that we've finished the outside area of the card, we can go ahead and work on the inside panel. So this is just another rectangle with rounded corners that I've cut from white cardstock. And I'm just going to first add a little bit of ink to the bottom, which is going to be the grass area in our scene. So I've taken some Post-it tape and kind of just added that across the panel so that I can kind of mask it off. And then I added the green ink all over the bottom area. And now we're going to work with the little cloud mask that we created using the masking paper. So I have some broken china ink, and I'm just going to position this mask on the panel here, and I'm just going to keep moving it up and adding ink along the edge here. And as I do it, it's going to create a sky full of clouds. So you just kind of want to use a really light hand. You don't want to do too much inking. And what I like to do is kind of put my ink blending tool on the mask and kind of pull upwards, and it just kind of pulls that blue ink onto the panel and gives you a little bit of an outline of the clouds. And as you continuously move it, I just kind of change the direction that I have the mask going just to kind of make it kind of random and not have all of the clouds looking absolutely the same. So you can see here now that I'm done, you get this beautiful sky of clouds. I just love how they look when you're finished. They just look so dimensional, and I just love the overall design of having all of that cloud detail in the background. So now that the background is done, we can add all of the other pieces that we've die cut and colored. So I put all of the houses and the trees at the bottom, and then I added 2 more of the smaller hot air balloons kind of on either side. And now I'm going to add this panel to the inside of the card. Because we want to stamp a sentiment, we want to make sure that the sentiment is hidden behind the spinner hot air balloon in the circle. Because when we close this, you can see that you can see through the card. So it's kind of cool to be able to see the 2 hot air balloons that are on the inside, but we don't want to see any of that sentiment peeking through. So I kind of just closed the card, eyeballed where the hot air balloon would be, and then I just stamped my sentiment directly underneath that area. And then once again, this sentiment was all in one row, but I did cut it in half and stamped each part of the sentiment one at a time stacked on top of one another. And now you can see I have the card closed, and you can't see that sentiment at all. And then when you open it, you have this beautiful scene on the inside, completely unexpected. This is a really great card design because it has the spinner detail on the front, which in itself is just a really great design feature. But then when you open the card, you have this whole entire scene that you don't even expect. So I just love the overall design of this card that Torico created. Now to finish it off, we're going to add the sentiment banner to the front. For Torico's card, she used white heat embossing for the sentiment. I decided to change mine a little bit and use black stamping instead, just to kind of show you the difference and give you a different option if you prefer the more bold sentiment on the banner. So I'm just going to adhere that directly to the front of the panel, and then that is going to complete our fun hot air balloon spinner card. So thank you so much to Torico for creating this awesome design that we could recreate in today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.